So I'm Thomas Hastings. I'm currently the acting ambassador of the U.S. Embassy here in Zimbabwe. And I had the pleasure this morning to visit the Rujeko Polyclinic here in Harare as an opportunity for me to see firsthand some of the assistance that the U.S. government provides through our Centers for Disease Control, CDC, in the fight against HIV and AIDS. This clinic is just a snapshot, an example of the work that the U.S. supports all over the country. There are, I was told, inside 5,039 people, Zimbabweans living with HIV, who receive their treatment here at this clinic. They receive their follow-up care at this clinic. They're tested for their viral load here at this clinic. If they're in need of additional counseling because the viral load is not being suppressed, they receive that treatment here. And all of this work is done through the support of the U.S. government, and specifically through the support of implementing partners and NGOs that we work with in Zimbabwe. So I think it's important to make a few points here. Number one is that I'm often told, the U.S. government supports the people of Zimbabwe very generously. Our support in 2020 totaled $340 million. But I talk to some Zimbabweans who say, well, where is that money going? I don't actually see the support that the U.S. government is providing. And the answer that I always like to give them is,
say some of the success stories that your interventions as the U.S. government, PEPFAR, and other partners has had on the HIV fight and programming around this institution?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, the fact is, the fight against HIV and AIDS has been a real success in Zimbabwe over the 18 years of PEPFAR and even before that, other forms of support. As I was saying earlier, my first experience living in Africa, I was living in Namibia in 1992. This was a time when the virus was spreading very fast and there were no antiretroviral treatments, and people were dying from the disease in very bad numbers. And to learn that you were HIV positive was essentially to learn that you were going to die in a short number of years. And now it's a completely different story. So we estimate that there are 1.2 million Zimbabweans who are living with HIV. 1.1 million of them are on treatment, which means that they're living healthy and reasonably long lives because of the treatment that they're receiving. And that treatment is made possible not just because the treatment was invented, because of all of this other health infrastructure, of the clinics and the bicycle delivery guys who drive the viral load samples to the lab and back, and the workers I met today who then call the people with HIV and say, you need to come in, your viral load is good, or it's not so good, we need to work with you and figure out what we can do now. That whole operation.
In Zimbabwe, and maybe probably Africa at large, cancer has become a major issue. This is so because of the cost that is associated. One is firstly even the diagnosis and the treatment. Is there any chance that we will have a PEPFAR being supported by the US government or something along those lines?
Well, it's a good question. HIV/AIDS is the most serious disease that has affected Africa, but of course it's not the only one. In fact, the more prominent example today is, of course, COVID. That here we were fighting the HIV/AIDS pandemic, and to everyone's surprise, nearly 2 years ago, the entire world had to face COVID. And on top of the HIV/AIDS efforts, we've needed to then add an additional layer of interventions for COVID. The US government's been proud to support that as well. The US government has either spent or has committed to spend over $45 million specific to the COVID effort and to efforts to mitigate the effects of COVID. But as you say, there's always more diseases. We also work in malaria, we work in maternal and child health, we work to ensure food security and basic nutrition. As developing countries become developed countries, they will sort of graduate up the scale of diseases, and so-called first world diseases such as cancer. Yes?
My name is once again Anna from newzimbabwe.com. Acting Ambassador, I would want to know from you, as much as you are working towards helping Zimbabweans mostly in terms of our health system. The health sector is deplorable, and you've put so much resources in it. Are you going to continue giving the resources that you've been giving in HIV due to this COVID-19 that has also come in to affect the country and the world at large?
Yes, absolutely. The largest part of our, our struggle in the HIV/AIDS program over the last 2 years has been working out how to preserve the gains of the fight against HIV/AIDS while also dealing with COVID. Obviously, the two diseases are not separate. It's the same healthcare workers, it's the same individuals who are HIV positive as who have the risk of getting COVID. It's the same healthcare professionals at clinics like this one which have to deal with it. So even though our initial program might be designed to say, this is HIV/AIDS, this is COVID, we know that the reality on the ground is that we're fighting these diseases at the same time. So it's very much on our minds that our efforts need to take both of those diseases into account in everything that we support.
And maybe one more follow-up question.